President Donald Trump arriving at Miami International Airport this afternoon ahead of his appearance in a federal courtroom tomorrow. Trump has been indicted on 37 counts, accused of mishandling classified national defense documents. Good evening. I'm Tiffany Kenny.
And I'm Felicia Rodriguez. Thank you for joining us. Tuesday's appearance in Miami will mark his second time since April facing a judge on criminal charges. We have live team coverage tonight from Doral, where supporters have gathered, to the Miami courthouse, where security measures are being implemented.
We begin with our co-anchor Todd McDermott in Doral with the very latest developments. Todd?
Tiffany, Felicia, right down the street from the Doral Trump National Golf Resort where he arrived. He arrived here at the resort shortly after 3 o'clock to a fairly small but enthusiastic crowd of supporters. He plans to stay here and meet with lawyers ahead of his appearance in less than 24 hours, about 22 hours from now, in Miami at the federal courthouse to face those more than 36 charges of willfully retaining top secret and classified government documents and refusing to return them. Those are the gist of the charges that he will face tomorrow, refusing to return them to the U.S. government. The case filed by Special Counsel Jack Smith on behalf of the Department of Justice accuses Trump of illegally hoarding classified documents regarding nuclear secrets, military attack plans, even U.S. vulnerabilities to an attack, and obstructing efforts by the Justice Department to recover them by conspiring to hide them and lie about his possession of the documents. The former president calls it a political witch hunt. On the campaign trail over the weekend, he denied any wrongdoing, said he will not drop out of the presidential race even if he's found guilty of these crimes. We're not expecting to see much of him tomorrow. Donald Trump is expected to enter the federal courthouse downtown Miami through an underground tunnel for safety. He'll be processed and fingerprinted by federal marshals and the FBI. Again, the Secret Service will also accompany him. He'll be asked to enter a plea before Judge Eileen Cannon before he'll be released on his own recognizance. Cameras not allowed in federal court. Trump leads the Republican field in early polling for the party's 2024 presidential nomination. Some surveys by a 2-to-1 margin now over second place Governor Ron DeSantis. You'll remember Trump was arraigned in New York State in court in April on charges of falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments to keep adult film actress Stormy Daniels quiet to protect his 2016 alleged election chances. But legal experts say these federal charges pose the more serious legal threat and carry potentially stiffer, much stiffer punishments in the form of prison time if Donald Trump is actually found guilty. First, we would have to get to a trial. Donald Trump will hold meetings with his legal representation tonight here at Doral. His attorney is Todd Blanche. He's expected in court with Trump tomorrow. However, we're not sure who the rest of this legal team is. Trump's team has spoken with a number of South Miami lawyers, some of which have turned down the chance to work with the former president. This is all in light of recent resignations of 3 key members of his legal team, the most recent 2 just last Friday. The Secret Service and U.S. Marshals, as I said, are significantly strengthening the security around the courthouse in downtown Miami. Tara Jakeway is looking at that part of our coverage tonight. The key here is security and safety for all involved. Tara?
Absolutely, Todd. And I know you had mentioned that tunnel. We are outside one of the other entrances to the courthouse, the west entrance, where there has been some reports that Trump could use this entryway. The main focus here is on the streets and safety. As you mentioned, they are expecting anywhere from 5,000 to 50,000 people. That is a sizable crowd. Also, a no-fly zone will soon be instituted over downtown Miami, where all day we've seen law enforcement from multiple agencies, including state and federal agencies, Homeland Security, Miami PD, Fire Rescue, Miami-Dade, Special Response Teams, and even park rangers. Blockades and police tape are up, and they have set up shop to capture the historic moment never before seen by the media. Now, a former U.S. president will be arraigned in federal court. Officials for the city of Miami held a press conference this afternoon to ensure the public that they are prepared, monitoring the streets and the chatter online.
There has been a lot of posts, none that I'm aware that can cause any concern of any type of credibility.
We're working with partners, our law enforcement partners at all levels, to make sure that we're communicating, to make sure that we're prepared, to make sure we're sharing information, and ultimately to ensure that tomorrow goes off without any hitch.
And when asked why they are so confident about the city's response to a huge demonstration, both the mayor and the police chief pointed to the George Floyd protests. They said that this city set a standard for the whole country, and those lasted weeks. This, they're only expected to last a day. Todd?
All right, Tara Jaquith. Tara, thank you again. The former president and his Republican allies have been criticizing both the investigation and the special counsel. And the former president has called for his supporters to come out en masse in support of him to protest this indictment. I'm going to bring in Angela Rozier now, who's with me here in Doral, where it wasn't a huge crowd, but it was a very enthusiastic crowd of people here who wanted to see the former president on the street here.
Exactly. When we first showed up this afternoon, it was pouring, but they were still showing up, his supporters parking here with their flags, with their signs, because they said they wanted the president to know they have his back. Now, I'm sure when you showed up, you could see the supporters lined up on both sides of the road here outside of his resort in Doral. That's where he will be staying while tonight, as a matter of fact, before he appears for his arraignment on Tuesday at the Miami Federal Courthouse. Now, supporters that we talked to a handful of them, and they say that the charges, they say that the allegations are simply unjust.
I do believe whenever I hear Trump say that this is election interference. I mean, it really is. It's a double standard that we're living in, and I think we all need to unite together.
We just have to show the man support, that we're here for him. The way he stands up for us, you got to stand up for him.
Now, I will say, Todd, there was a common theme with the folks I talked to. They all kept talking about unity, how they hope that everyone can be united again sometime in the future. I also talked to a non-Trump supporter. He says he just wants everyone to know that there are other choices out there. But again, everyone on both sides, they plan to be out here again tomorrow.
All right, and I'm sure they'll be out here to see him off in the afternoon, and then he'll be in the courthouse in Miami. Angela, thank you. Now, a lot has been made of what is the content of this indictment itself. As more people are seeing what the charges are, getting a better idea of Americans' response to the indictment. A new ABC News poll reveals how Americans feel about the indictment now. Now, 72 hours later, 61% believe the federal charges Donald Trump faces are at least very or somewhat serious. Again, these are all felonies regarding top secret and classified documents. 28% say the charges aren't serious at all. And in that same ABC News poll, about 35% of people nationwide, according to the poll, believe the charges are politically motivated. About half say the indictment is the correct decision. Former President Trump does plan to again hold a political fundraiser following his indictment tomorrow. He'll fly back to the Bedminster Golf Club in New Jersey following his indictment here in Miami and hold a fundraiser. He did much the same thing when he was indicted in New York on state charges involving fraud and those hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. Again, talking to supporters and also fundraising off of that. The fundraiser expected about 8 p.m. tomorrow, which means that he'll be off the ground and heading back to New Jersey soon after he appears in federal court here. Again, he will be speaking before that fundraiser, we believe, some public comments. Stay with WPBF 25 News on the air here and online for the latest coverage of the indictment of Donald Trump. You can also read the entire 49-page document online, and you can see much more of what these charges actually entail. We have more coming up at 5:30, including the comments of Donald Trump's former Attorney General regarding whether he is a victim of that political witch hunt. For now, I'm Todd McDermott, live in Doral outside the Trump Golf Resort. I'll send it back to Felicia and Tiffany.